One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's live edition. It's January 9th, 2013. I've got a jam-packed broadcast for you. Tonight, joining me in hour number 1 to sit and cover a bunch of different things, including his new film coming out that he's been working on with Jason Burmis, is the founder of the Intel Hub and a good friend of mine, Mr. Shepard Ambellas. Shepard, welcome back to the broadcast, brother.
It's good to be on the show, Popeye.
So, since the last time I had you on, I know you guys, in fact, the last time I had you on, you and Jason were on, we chatted with you. Mm-hmm. And you guys chatted with Joe, too. This was probably 7 months ago now. This is around the time of the Bilderberg meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys were out there harassing the Bilderbergers, getting video footage and stuff. And you were just starting to actually, compile everything, and you were just entering the editing phase, and now you're almost ready to release the film. So let's get right into it. Go ahead. What is Shade? And, plug it. The floor is yours. Tell the listeners what it is and what it's going to be about and when they can get it.
Shade the Motion Picture, you can find it at shadethemotionpicture.com, is a documentary film. It's essentially edited together in a cinema verite format, which means essentially there's no narration. So this is a challenging way to present a film, in my opinion, because of what you got to go through to make it. And watching Jason do a lot of this editing when I was over there in New York to me it's just a nightmare. I worked on the trailers primarily, especially the third trailer, which released today on our YouTube channel. You can also find it at shadethemotionpicture.com. But that was a challenge for me, let alone editing this whole film in a cinema verite fashion or format. It should make...
the footage and the interview you've done will actually tell the story from beginning to end.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a unique way of doing it. That's something that not many documentary filmmakers have done. See, I like that. That's an interesting way to bring something new to the documentary genre. Who came up with that? You or Burmis?
It was my original concept, just for the fact that I feel like when I always watched documentary films in school when I was a kid, I always felt like someone was instructing me. You know, they're telling me this is how it is, and this is what went down, and, you know, this is that. And I feel that I always wanted to not really fully engage in the film because I kind of wanted to resist that authority. And I feel like a lot of people in America feel the same way. So I decided to just present it in a fashion that, you know, everyone could relate to, essentially. And it wouldn't be instructing them. It would basically be a bunch of people and their varying opinions, and that would film what would be, or that would comprise what would be known as, you know, the final film composition. So pretty interesting process.
I like that. I like the idea that the actual interviewees are the ones that end up telling the story and giving out the information. That, you know, and like you said, a lot of documentaries do come across very, you know, like school documentaries, the kind of stuff that by, you know, halfway through people are, you're like, yo, man, wake up, wake up, wake up. You're missing the best part. I know exactly what you mean. So that's cool that it's I think that'll keep people engaged too, because it's going from person to person to person. And I'm sure I'm sure Jason will probably have it, come back and, go round full circle a few times where you'll see the same person a couple times. So that's cool.
Yeah, he's managed to organize it in a fashion. You know, we kind of talked about the general structure of the film and how everything's going to work, but he's managed to fit it in. You know, I told him one thing I want to see in this film is a lot of quick cuts, a lot of, you know, I don't want to see one person talking for 5 minutes or even a minute or maybe even 30 seconds. So it's making for a really visually appealing film, not to mention it's filmed all in 1080p. You know, it'll be available on DVD at whatever resolution that is, but you'll actually be able to probably eventually get it, you know, online, maybe order it from some download service at 1080p.
Oh, that's cool. So you'll not only have it on DVD, but people can, if they order it and however much, they can actually just download the file and burn their own. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we're going to have something like that set up, or a pay-per-view type fashion, or something that would allow you to watch it in essentially a Blu-ray format. You know what I mean?
That's pretty cool. And now, we only got a few minutes before we go to the first break, but I want to get into a little bit about what the film is. So we got about a little less than 2 minutes before the break sneaks up on us. So where does it start off? Let's start there. Where does the film start?
You know, it starts off with our trip to Bilderberg, getting our gear ready, actually flying, encountering the TSA, some of the security stuff like that. And then it segues into actually showing up at Bilderberg, you know, talking to some of these people at Bilderberg, shows some of these elites showing up, you know, interviews with renowned people on site at Bilderberg. You're going to see some of the behind-the-scene footage of what happened with some of these people getting arrested and how some of these cops reacted, how all this worked. And then it moves into more of how it's going to identify the power structure, whatnot, segueing into covert black programs like chemtrail operations, you know, depopulation agendas and whatnot. And eventually it ends with some inspiration, some solution, and a little bit of everything for everyone.
So that's cool. So you actually start off with your footage from the Bilderberg meetings, and then you guys go into the rest of the info. Now, I know you when you guys were on the ground, I know you guys got hassled with and followed and screwed with. I mean, not hardcore, not maybe to the the level that other people did, but you still, I know you guys were messed with, and you guys actually had a good vantage point. Shep, you got some really good photos, actually. I think you got some of the best photos out of everybody. I'm not saying that because, I know you or anything like that. I'm saying that because you literally leaned out, almost got hit by a couple of the cars taking some of these shots. And I've seen them, you sent them to me, and I've seen them. They're amazing, some of these close-ups. So, kudos to you guys. You know what? The break's sneaking up on us. Let's stop right there. When we get back, I want to get into the inspiration for Shade and a few other things, and then I want to pick your brain on a few subjects. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. More with Shepard Ambellas from the Intel Hub when we get back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. And my guest this first hour is Mr. Shepard Ambellas, the founder and one of the operators over at the Intel Hub. He works with Alex Thomas and Mr. Bob Tuskin. Wanted to give those guys some credit, too, because they do a lot of work behind the scenes. Plus, you guys got a whole crew going on over there now. You guys have really stepped up your game as well to the next level. So, actually, there's even more faces over there. So, I actually urge you to just go check out the Intel Hub. You can see all the stuff that they do. They're constantly pumping out new articles and stuff. Shep, when it comes to Shade, I know you have your hands full. I mean, you don't do this for a living. You actually have a day job that you actually work your butt off at. So you already have your day job. You have the Intel Hub, which I know takes a lot of time. And it's not that, you just founded it and then you let everybody else do the work. You actually write articles and stuff and do a lot of research yourself. So you have all this stuff going on, and then you decide to make a movie? I mean, yeah. Do you sleep?
No, that was my biggest drawback.
Do you have an IV of coffee or something in you? How do you do it?
That's what I need. I'm trying to find something like that. It's getting to be, pretty tiresome. I wrote an article today just kind of talking a little bit about it, but it's grueling. Jason's in New York right now grueling it out because we're trying to meet certain deadlines. Just everything about the whole filmmaking process is just, it takes a lot of energy. I didn't realize what I was getting myself into in the beginning, Popeye.
Well, it's exciting to see, because I've seen it from the, I've kind of gotten a chance to have an insider's perspective, but not being involved in it, but someone who knows you, so I've gotten a chance to see it from the sidelines and just watch you guys build this thing from the ground up. And it's been pretty amazing. You guys really have been working your butt off. Mm-hmm. I have to give you credit. I mean, you guys really, I didn't even realize how many interviews you conducted until, I don't know, it was about 3 months ago, 2.5, 3 months ago, you and I were chatting and you sent me a bunch of videos and stuff and you were like, check this out, check this out, check this out. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even realize you guys went all over the country to interview these people. So,
there's over 20, there's like 20-something people in the film. It's an impressive roster, Popeye. It's got a little bit of something for everyone, and I hope that people in the movement, they're like, oh, this guy's an operative, that guy's an operative, this guy's this guy's that. A lot of that is just varying opinion and variance of opinion, and you're going to get a little taste of that in Shade. However, the movie does have a general theme and concept, and so you're going to see, these sinister globalist agendas. There's going to be whistleblower testimony. There's going to be people who are being poisoned, their lab results. There's many elements to the film, including top reggae artist Skull, music from Global Resistance, Chris Gio, my friend, working on it. Chronic Vibe, excellent hip-hop group out of Canada. So we're working with top producers, music producer Ralph Patlin, who works with so many of the top rock bands. Also people like Jamie Foxx. This month alone, he's worked on 3 film projects. I could name so many names. He was in the Brian Head Welch Band. He's the guitarist in the Brian Head Welch Band, and or was. He's not no more. He doesn't have time for it anymore, actually, because he's just been swamped with production. But I mean, just, you know, interesting working with all these different people, traveling around with Jason, the Info Warrior Burmis. That was pretty interesting. He's a real hard worker, real dedicated, very talented, very much technology savvy. You know, we traveled around. We flew all across the United States, drove through California, drove up to the Redwoods. We interviewed Rosalind Peterson up there. So, you know, it was a constant grind, interview after interview at some points, day after day, just trying to make certain deadlines and make all this come together.
You guys have any live screenings, you know, planned for the premiere or anything like that? Anything big?
Not yet, really. I'm debating on if I'm even going to do anything or not, or what I'm going to do. You know, behind the scenes, I'm trying to get everything set up to promote the film, and hopefully everyone buys a copy of the DVD. I mean, obviously, you can watch the film with some commercials in it and annoying little scroller bars, and you can watch it in a lower quality on YouTube, but you really should buy the film. Not only did it essentially bankrupt us just making it, it took a lot of energy and effort, and it really does have a great message, you know, positive vibe overall with, you know, I think it has the potential to create a mass awakening, so I suggest you actually buy the DVD Popeye at shadethemotionpicture.com.
And of course, you guys, I'm sure, encourage people to, if they buy it, you know, they can burn copies and hand them out, and
absolutely
have screenings and, you know, events of the sort to show people the film, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
In fact, if anybody does buy the film and do a screening, what you should do is take photos and video, and I'm sure if you send it to the guys over at the Intel Hub, they'll probably even, I'm sure you guys could even, you know, write an article or whatever, you know, do your magic.
We could supply people who want to do screenings with the event flyers, movie posters, DVDs, you know, products like that to help spread the message even further. So anything to get the word out, advertisement's key. We're probably going to offer some things like that on the website, maybe for like cost, where you can buy some posters and T-shirts and stuff like that, so that you know, people can just kind of spread the word about Shade, the motion picture, and hopefully, not necessarily. I mean, this is going to be great for the people who are already awake. Trust me, you're going to walk away from it really inspired. It's gonna be a really adventurous ride. But to someone who's just getting into this type of information or just learning about these type subjects, it's gonna blow their mind.
And I take it that the title Shade refers to where these people operate from.
Yeah, essentially, and you know, it has multiple meanings. I mean, there's shady agendas. These are shady characters, and there's also a shade effect taking place in our atmosphere with these tiny geoengineering particulates that are blocking sunlight, giving us vitamin D deficiency, and essentially depopulating us.
Yeah, which that has a lot to do with what the stuff Mike Murphy talks about, and why in the world are they spraying, which you get into chemtrails and stuff in the movie, like you said, geoengineering and things like that, right? You guys dive into it. Well, if you talk to Rosalind Peterson, then obviously you had to have talked chemtrails, because you can't talk to that lady without talking chemtrails, and she knows a lot about chemtrails. She really does.
Yeah, Michael Murphy's in the film as well. Reggae artist Skull, who has a chemtrail anthem. Cry Die. You can just Google Cry Die and check it out. It's awesome. Skull, Cry Die. Check it out.
Yeah, it's a pretty good song. I've played it before. I had Skull's producer, Morgan Carey, on. Not this past time Mike was on, but the time before. We got a break sneaking up on us, Shep. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. I got another half hour with Shepard Ambellas. When we get back, I'm going to pick his brain on a few things, because remember, Shepard knows a lot about what's going on, and I want to get his opinion on a few things, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, and if anybody heard Shepard and I chatting during the break, because sometimes the system malfunctions. If you guys heard us chatting during the break and dropping F-bombs, well, that's what happens when you're muted and you're chatting during the break. So you weren't meant to hear that, so don't anybody get offended or anything. You know, technical glitch, it happens. Too bad, whatever, moving on. So, Shep, we got a half hour left, and I really want to pick your brain. There's a bunch of stuff that's happened in between the last time you came on and now. And, I mean, there's so much about all these mass shootings and this push for gun control and everything else. What, out of all this craziness, I mean, the geoengineering, all this stuff, what would you say is the number one top threat in your eyes right now, today, as you and I chat?
Well, you know, just the globalist agenda in general, and how these guys are salting in, they're sprinkling their members, they're sprinkling their men into government, into corporations worldwide, swallowing up the little guys, swallowing up the little corporations, and essentially forming some sort of one world body. So we're seeing a lot of this consolidation, and we're seeing them just move on these agendas, whether it's gun control, which is going to be coming up, this issue, due to these school shootings, which look like they're potentially staged, or something's really out of place, to say the least about it. You know, this type of stuff, this, you know, all these people coming out, these Piers Morgan type characters, to, you know, even Alex Jones going on to the Piers Morgan show, all this stuff escalating, the economic breakdown. I mean, times are interesting.
Interesting, to say the least. I mean, I don't think I'd want to live in any other time. Lord knows. I mean, you know, what 200 or 300 years from now would be like, but definitely
What if you lived in year one?
Well, yeah, I guess, but this is, I guess that would be the most interesting, because
you wouldn't know anything. Like, no one would know anything.
Well, you wouldn't have anything to compare it to, so, you know. Where we live now is crazy, dude. You know, when I was a kid, Shep, we're like we're around the same age, so, like, when we were kids, if you had told me that we'd have cell phones that you could watch movies on and watch live television on, I'd be like, okay, Buck Rogers. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Right? Like, yeah, maybe when I'm 50, and yet here it is. I wonder what we don't know about. And I know you guys get into that over at the Intel Hub a lot, and you guys talk about HARP and scalar technology and geoengineering and all this other stuff. But there's one article in particular that you guys put out about a year ago that I think is a big chunk of evidence that nobody really talks about. And that would be that article you guys wrote about the funding of the chemtrail program in it's a presidential budget, right? Or is it a congressional budget?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, you know, there's members of Congress, like, or you know, and of the Senate. Take Senator Johnny Isakson, for example. I mean, this guy came out on CBS Atlanta, and he essentially said chemtrails are a conspiracy. They simply don't exist. But yet these guys have signed bills, they've signed budgets, they've signed supplements to the presidential budget through the USGCRP, or the United States Global Change Research Program. It's a government website, globalchange.gov. Anyone can go there. And you can see the annual reporting to Congress. You can see where they've spent money researching geoengineering applications. They've researched how to disperse the geoengineering particulates into the atmosphere, whether it be by high altitude blimps, rocket propelled injection into the stratosphere or planes carrying this stuff up. They did a cost analysis on it. And through Aurora Flight Sciences report, they conducted an entire analysis on this, and they determined that, how many chemtrailing bases would they need nationwide, how many would they need worldwide, would they just need one, would they need many, and how all this would work and operate. And there's things called like the IPCC, the International Panel on Climate Change, and these bodies are still conducting research. They're still releasing information. They're still releasing reports, and some of their information is conflicting with others. There's members that are saying, hey, we need to take a bigger look at these geoengineering applications and what they're doing. And all in all, what I see out of this bottom line is it's profiteering at the least is taking place, because it's what you have is multi-tier operations. You have someone is selling these aluminum, barium, and strontium particulates. Someone's selling the spray. Someone's selling the airplane. Someone's conducting.
Well, how many people are? There's got to be a crew operating one of these jets. And by the way, these type of things exist. There are jets that are made to spray. You can go. You can see pictures and stuff online. And no, maybe you're not looking at a picture of a chemtrail plane, but if they can spray something with that from a massive jet, what's to say they couldn't put this type of crap in there and spray that? You know what I mean? Like, oh well, they wouldn't do that. Why? Because you wouldn't do it? Put that notion aside, ladies and gentlemen. This is really the real deal. I used to think chemtrails were crazy, out there stuff too, until I started to really research geoengineering in this a couple of years ago, and I realized, wow, this is not crazy. I wish it was. I wish this were a mad scientist plot, B-movie fiction story, but it really is a mad scientist plot, but it's reality. These people are insane. And you have to remember, when people go, well, why would they do that to the planet? They're going to poison themselves too. Well, the idiots that lit off the atomic bomb during the Trinity test, and by the way, I know anybody that listens to the broadcast knows that we didn't invent the atomic bomb. The Germans, the Nazis at the time, and the Japanese were also working on it, and the Germans had actually already field tested one before we did. But when our scientists lit it off here in the United States, more than half of them were thoroughly convinced that they were going to ignite the atmosphere of the planet, and it would engulf the entire planet, therefore causing the end of the world. And you know what? They did it anyway. So that ought to answer your question of why would they do it? Because they're psychos. They are insane. That's why they do it. There is no reasoning with these people. They are just off the chart nuts. You know who's scarier than any Osama bin Laden or any of these people? John P. Holdren and guys like him. Okay, those are the people that you should be worried about, because those are these little intellectual nerds that people will look at and they go, they're nothing, they're harmless. Those are the guys that are evil, because their little wheels are spinning constantly.
So I was over at federaljack.com just now, and it's looking pretty sexy over there, Popeye.
You like it, huh?
Well, the best features are the shadethemotionpicture.com.
I knew you were going to say it.
Based on the site. Thanks.
I love when you give yourself shameless plugs, Shep.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, what do you want people to take home? We got a break coming up on us in about 15 or 20 seconds. But at the end of the day, when I want to get into this on the other side of the break, I'll have you answer this. But what would you like people to take home with them from Shade and be able to pass on to others? And I'm not going to let you answer it right now. I'm going to make you hold that thought for 3 minutes, and I'll make you answer it on the other side of the break. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. If you want, go to federaljack.com. Just click on the banner for Shade and go check out Shep's movie. because it'll take you right to the website, and you can check out the trailers. You can order a copy of it. Support them, and go make copies and hand it out and have screenings. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment of the first hour, but remember, don't go anywhere. There is always hour number 2. But final segment with my guest for this evening, Mr. Shepard Ambellas, founder of the Intel Hub, and now a filmmaker, movie Shade, coming out. When is it coming out, Shep?
February 15th.
February 15th?
Yeah.
Cool. And going into break, I asked you, and I've let you ponder this during the break. I didn't even pick your brain on this, so this will be raw, uncensored for, I haven't even heard it yet. What do you want people to take away from the film? I know you and Jason have put a lot of time and energy and effort into this film. If you could sum it up in one thing, and I know it's not just one thing, but if there's one thing, I guess, I don't want to say sum it up, but if there's one thing that you want people to take away from the film, what would that be?
Well, when we went to interview Anthony Hilder, he's a renowned, I guess, member of the alternative media, conspiracy theorist, filmmaker. Some would question Anthony Hilder. A recent episode on Jesse Ventura conspiracy theory made me become really impressed with Anthony Hilder as he directed him to the Ozarks, and he made a pretty ballsy statement, and he said, this will now become conspiracy fact if you go investigate this, and his whole credibility was resting on that. Sure enough, there's this compound in the Ozarks, the elites are moving in, so really compelling. But when we went to film Anthony Hilder, me and Jason Burma showed up, and I found out several days before that he was going to decline the interview after he promised he would do it because he had suffered a stroke, and his speech was impaired, and during the interview he was only able to literally get maybe 10 good lines out through the entire interview because his brain was still kind of scattered from the stroke and whatnot. But I feel like he had an important message, and he said, you have to stand up, and speak out. And I think that's the most important thing anyone can take away from this.
Well, that's pretty powerful. And I agree. I mean, people need to stand up, and they need to get involved. They need to have the courage to stand up against this and say out loud, yes, there is bad things going on, and they are trying to take away our freedoms and turn this place, the entire planet, into a prison planet, type grid complex, whatever the frig you want to call it. And there's a ton of different names, but basically tyranny, if you want to label it something, I guess. And it takes big balls for somebody to step up initially and say that. I've seen a couple people that I've grown up with, and recently wake up to the New World Order, and for their safety, they'll remain nameless, but they know who they are. And it's amazing to see them go from talking about utterly mundane crap on their Facebook page, at least compared to what I would consider to be, a mundane garbage, to now they're standing up and they're actually voicing their opinion and facts about real important issues. And knowing the area that I grew up in, that's not something that's easy to do, because people will look at you like, oh, you're crazy, just like most, and pretty much anywhere else. If you're in a very mainstreamish area, standing up, that's probably the hardest part, is the initial standing up. After that, it gets easier. But that initial stepping up is probably the hardest part. That's pretty deep, Shep. I hope people take that away too. Especially, I guess, they probably will get inspired by seeing what you guys did, going up and bullhorning the Bilderbergers and stuff. I mean, even at the end of the day, if someone says, well, what did that do? You say you bullhorned them, they laughed at you. Okay, they might have laughed at them, but but it lets them know that, you know what, 10 years ago, nobody even bullhorned them or mentioned their name. And now there's hundreds of people out in the front lawn giving them the middle finger, saying, screw you, we know about you. And by the way, we're live streaming this all over the world, douchebags.
Yeah, not to mention Drudge reported on the Bilderberg Group, the London Guardian. So, interesting things coming out of this.
Yeah, and you know what? That's cool. That's a good way to a positive note. To end it is to say that people should take that they should take away inspiration. That's pretty powerful, Shep. And I agree. At the end of all this, the efforts of most of us, right? I mean, I know some people are in this they for fame or fortune or whatever. You're not going to find that here, but whatever. I guess some people think that exists doing this, but I think most people that are doing this want to inspire other people to step up and get involved. And if nothing else, if they take nothing else away but the inspiration to get up and do something, then you've done your job, right? And so has Jason. All the effort that you guys put into that movie, all the time you spent, the money you spent, it'll be worth it if you inspired somebody. Who knows who you two could inspire? I mean, you guys could inspire somebody that could make the next great film. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Jordan Maxwell was talking about this very same thing in a roundabout way. He was talking about the Tiananmen Square uprising and how they were actually able to do that because they were passing around cassette tapes amongst the children, amongst the kids, the teenagers, the people. And the government just thought they were passing around these useless cassette tapes with, music on them and whatnot. And all the while they were being educated on what the government was doing and how they needed to have an uprising against what was going on. And he was essentially, Jordan Maxwell's idea is he really wants to essentially do that in the modern day. And he wants things like shade and certain things like this to be used as a tool that people essentially hand out on that level and pass around that are always going to be there, hard copies that are going to make their way around. And essentially these globalists will be exposed to a level to where they can't even maneuver anymore.
And that's the way it needs to happen. See, the reason why they've gotten away with it, like David Rockefeller admitted back in the 90s, was because the newspapers and such had been, and the news, TV stations and radio stations and the like had been so quiet that they could maneuver, they could walk around openly and freely because nobody knew really who they were. And if they did know of them, it was only, good, philanthropic things, and they're such great people, and blah, you know what I mean? Now people see them on the street, and they're like, they literally have to wonder if someone's going to walk up to them and say, you traitor, we're not going to let you have the New World Order, or your New World Order will not succeed, blah 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 blah. David Rockefeller's got to be 97, 98 years old. The only thing he's conquering is not crapping on himself, and getting it all into the bag. Do you think he wants to deal with somebody coming up and pointing in his face, in his final years? Do you really think he wants to deal with someone getting up in his grill and telling him, you're a scumbag, you're going to go down, and although you're not going to survive to see it, your children and your grandchildren will live to be punished for your deeds and your father's deeds and the rest of your scumbag family's deeds? Okay, do you think he really wants to have that in his final years? I don't think so. So if someone can get inspired by that action and someone can step up to the plate just from watching your film could inspire somebody to do that. That's what I try to do with the radio broadcast every time I come on air. I try to inspire people to go out and educate themselves. It's amazing, if someone emails me and say, hey, you know what, I'm doing a podcast now because I got inspired because you were doing your own radio show and blah, who knows? Next thing you know, 5 years from now, the guy could be on professional radio talking truth. He could be on terrestrial radio, so you never know. It's just amazing what you can set off, Shep. So we got about a minute before the end of the the first hour here. Shep, I want you to go ahead, plug the movie again, and plug whatever else you want. The Intel Hub, and plug all your Twitter and your Facebook and all that stuff. Go ahead.
Well, people can pretty much find everything at theintelhub.com. But, I really want people to check out Shade the Motion Picture, shadethemotionpicture.com. The DVD's coming February 15th. It'll be available low quality on YouTube. Essentially, I encourage everyone to purchase a copy. We need the support. Not only is there literally, Popeye, thousands of man-hours into this project, there's countless amounts of dollars have been put into this, and we need the support. So I would appreciate anyone that could purchase the film to purchase it, make copies of it, hand it to everyone. Let's get this information out like Jordan Maxwell was talking about, and let's hand it out in a roundabout way to where these globalists don't even see what's going on. They don't even know what hit them. And this information is just coming from the backside because they're looking at certain channels.
I agree. It's time to make it so uncomfortable for them that just getting out of their bed is a painful experience for them. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back. Hour number 1 up, hour number 2 coming up. Don't go anywhere. Shep, thanks for coming on, brother. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, anytime.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with our number dose here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. That is my website. News, videos, pictures, ebooks, archives of all the broadcasts. Everything there for free. Go check it out. It is January 9th, 2013. Before I go off on a rant on the numerous things I'd like to get into tonight, here in hour number 2, I want to remind everybody that the past couple days, actually past couple weeks, but past couple days I've been spending a little extra time each day trying to get it done, trying to cram in as much as I can to get this done faster. But I'm building a bunch of different download pages, just like I had told you about last week. I made the downloadable archive section. So if you go to federaljack.com, you click on the archive section, when it opens up right underneath the banner, in the show description, before you actually start to get to the links to the YouTube videos, in the normal archive section, you'll see a little, not little, you'll see a hyperlink. It's like 3 or 4 lines of text, and it'll say click here to go to the downloadable archive. That opens up a separate page, or it should take you to a separate page where it's basically a index of a file folder with all of my archived audio in there, from the shows I've done to the guest appearances I've done, all of that stuff. Okay. Now let me explain really quick how it's listed, because it gets a little confusing. You'll see things from 2011, 2012, and now coming into 2013. Not until April. Once April hits, then you'll start to see stuff from April of 2011, 2012, and 2013. So after that, you'll start to see the triple years there. And what's going to happen is, for right now, until I'm trying to decide if because I don't want to make it too. I don't want to start to make it too intricate, because then once you start adding stuff, then it starts to get non-user friendly. Remember, I made it basic so it works with everything across the board as much as possible. So I'm going to try to figure out a better way to organize it a little bit for you, like maybe perhaps into year, 2011, 2012, 2013. But for right now, if it's a broadcast that you want to see from January, well, it's going to have January of this year and January of last year in it. If you go to perhaps in 5 or 6 months from now, if you go there and you look at something from, say, March, it'll say March 2011, 2012, 2013, and it'll have the dates. So what it'll do is it'll say, if I did a broadcast and each year I was broadcasting on the 14th of March, right? Well, it'll say 14th, 2011, 14th, 2012. If I broadcast on the 14th in 2013, then it'll be there too. All of them will be there. I label the way I title the broadcasts when I put them up there. You guys see how I do it. I always put a little bit of a description in the title. So it makes this way a little easier. I'm working on a third option as well. So there will be 3 different ways when you go to Federal Jack to listen to the archives, which I'm playing around with this third option right now. So I haven't decided what I'm going to do with it yet. But the easiest, simplest way is the directory listing page that I built for and loaded up with all of the audio from all of the broadcasts I've ever done, including podcasts, anything. It's all up there. And it's free. You guys can go up and download it, and it works because, I've tested it on iPads. I tested it on an iPhone. I tested it on Android. I know it works on PCs. I know it works on Apple computers, basic like laptops and iMacs and stuff like that. So I know it works with everything. So anytime you guys want to download stuff, and what's cool about your phone is, like with an Android, if you go to download it, it'll ask you, do you want to save it or do you want to play it right from the internet? You can either stream it if you have the power, you have good, if you're in somewhere where you have Wi-Fi or internet access or whatever. I mean, you could still stream it with your phone, but it's up to you. But if that's the case, I would just download it and save it to the phone, because then you could always pause it and go back later on. You don't have to worry about trying to restream it and having it buffer and everything else. If you just download it, you save it to your phone, put it in your your memory card. Everybody's got a friggin' memory card nowadays in their cell phone that's got 32 gig. Most memory cards in people's cell phones now have more memory than supercomputers did 20 years ago. So they're not that big. 128K audio archives. Rip them, download them, spread them. I know there's people that still take audio snippets out there and cut them up into YouTube videos and stuff. Somebody will go off on a rant about something or whatever. Feel free to take the audio, snip it, make a video out of it, throw it up on YouTube. Just send me a link, and I'll post it on Federal Jack. Just let me know. All right. There's a few things I want to get into. We got a few minutes left before the end of the first segment. And by the way, stay tuned for those download pages, because I got so sidetracked I forgot. Besides the archive page, there's a couple other ones. Videos. There's one I built. It's under construction as I speak. Actually, I'm actually transferring files over as I chat with you. But I'm building one for 9/11, so you guys can go there, and it'll have all different videos, pictures, whatever PDFs and stuff I've got. And I'm not saying it's the end-all, be-all, but whatever I've got available. And as I go through the stuff that I've saved over the years, I'm going to continue to throw there, and then people can go and download it at their whim and at their leisure, and save it for their own files. I'm doing one for JFK, and then I'm doing one just for regular videos. So you have my downloadable archives, the JFK one, the 9/11 one, and the video one. For right now, if you want to go check it out, the JFK one's still under construction. You can go see it. It's live. Just go type in federaljack.com/JFK, and you'll see it. And the other one is federaljack.com/9-11-01. So federaljack.com/9-11-01. And the other one's federaljack.com/JFK. And those are the two, the 9/11 and the JFK downloadable archive pages I've built. I'm going to, like I said, there's a page under construction where I'm going to have everything listed. It's going to be one spot to go to, and then you can click, I'll have a banner for each one. When you click the banner, it'll bring you to that page, so it'll be easier to go to. And it's all under construction. I got to make the banners. I got a bunch of stuff I got to do. That's why I put out a call the other day for graphic designers, because I have a few projects I'm working on that I need some graphics done for. So if anybody's interested, contact me, hit me up on Facebook, you can look me up on Facebook. It's Popeye Federal Jack, or email me, contactdtrh@yahoo.com. The full word, contact dtrh@yahoo.com. And if you do graphics and stuff like that, hit me up, because I want to pick your brain. I need somebody who feels like volunteering a little bit of time to help me do the graphics for the download section and a few other things. And like, I'm not a big operation. I don't make any money. I don't charge any money for any of this stuff, so I can't afford to pay you for it. So I'll tell you right now, if you want to make any cash or anything off of it, it's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody that wants to volunteer their time. And the plus side is you have access to all the free stuff that I put up in the download sections, right? And I would, of course, advertise. If you do graphic design or anything for a living, I would advertise your stuff. I would give you a plug on air and stuff for doing the graphic design work for me. But feel free to hit me up. Email me, contact dtrh@yahoo.com, or hit me up on Facebook, Popeye Federal Jack. All right, break coming up. When we come back, I have my targets lined up. There's a few things I want to tear apart. Just wait. And by the way, we're going to fact check Piers Morgan. Really quick, we're not going to waste too much time on that moron, but we're going to fact check him, and you're going to see how wrong he really is. He's actually a liar. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. All right. I want to fact check that so-called commentator. I'll behave myself. I don't want to start throwing out ad hominem attacks and things like that, because then I bring myself down to his level. So I'm trying not to go there. I'm trying to be mindful of that. So I'll fact check Piers in a second, but there's a few things I want to go over before. You know what I'll do? I'll go over one thing, and then we'll get into fact checking Piers Morgan, and then we'll get on the other stuff I want to get into, because I'm kind of limited for time here. So I'm just trying to figure out in my head how I want to attack it. First thing is, I want to throw this out there really quick. Everybody's freaking out about Joe Biden today. Oh, we're gonna. Obama's going to have an executive order to ban guns and gun control and all this other crap, right? Well, first of all, look who he was meeting with, right? He was meeting with a lobbyist group for the victims of gun violence, I think it's called, or something to that effect. So a lot of that was PR. At least 50% of that was PR. Now, I know people are very edgy because they are pushing for gun control. I'm not saying that this isn't serious and we shouldn't be mindful or anything like that, but I think people, again, jumping the gun and saying, oh my God, executive order. Look, they admitted a couple months ago, because they floated this idea a few months back, remember? And when they floated the idea, they were told, there was a lot of critics, I should say, that came out and said, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, it wouldn't be legal, blah, blah, blah. Not that any of the other executive orders are, right? I mean, he could issue one if he wanted to, technically, but is any of that legal anyway? No. So they said that the problem is that he's very limited on what he'd be able to do. So his executive orders would probably be more putting the clamps down on things that are already in place, or making certain things. We already have background checks and things like that. So the power they already have set, or perhaps like agencies like the BATF or whatever the frig they call themselves nowadays, because they change their name every day of the week. First it was the ATF, then it was the BATF, now it's the BATFE. BATFE, I don't know what the hell that's supposed to stand for. I don't even know. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Entertainment. I don't know. Just unbelievable. A nice government agency. They waste more time printing out new letterhead and new business cards every 2 years than actually fighting crime. Way to go. Talk about inefficient, guys. So he could have agencies like that crack down and do things. But as far as confiscating guns, I mean, that would spark a civil war. Now, again, is that what they're trying to do? I mean, yeah. Is that their ultimate goal? Because that's the outcome that they can control? Yeah. But I don't think people should be freaking out about Biden as much. Again, a lot of times Joe's a loudmouth. I'm not saying they're not going to try to push gun control and that Biden wasn't instrumental in the last gun ban or anything like that. But when it comes to his comment today, I think a lot of it was talk because of where he was and who he was with. Let's see if he talks the same thing tomorrow. Now, if they keep pushing it, then maybe there is more, than talk. But again, an executive order like that, things like that are unconstitutional. At that point, then we might as well just close Congress down. I mean, and that's actually the point that should be made. If somebody wants to argue it, you say, well, if that's the case, we must just shut Congress down, shut the Supreme Court down, and just give the keys to the country to the dictator in charge. And when people say, well, why would you do that, Popeye? Because the best way to make people realize that somebody's a dictator is to make the dude act like a dictator. Right now, he's wearing his white gloves still. To many people that are awake, he's now no longer wearing those white gloves, but there's still a lot of people out there that think he's wearing those white gloves. You got to get him to take those gloves off and show that he's got dirt under his fingernails. That's what you need to do. And guess what? One of their own laws does just that. Because, you see, they crammed Obamacare down our throats, right? Everybody was pissed off at Obamacare. Nobody wants to, oh, God, nobody, Obamacare this, Obamacare that. Well, guess what? You're going to make a tyrant. Their own bill is going to make them act like a tyrant if they keep pushing this, we want to grab your guns. They're going to have to break one of their own laws that they already put into power last year or that Obama signed into law last year. Obamacare. In it, there's a provision, which I guess they didn't pay attention to. Well, maybe you should have read it, Pelosi, before you signed it and passed it. But pretty much it says that they cannot collect, and this being the federal government, any information relating to the lawful ownership or possession of a firearm or ammunition. Bye, Dianne Feinstein, and your gun registration. Obamacare makes that illegal. Yep, little provision in Obamacare. It says your gun registration, it's illegal. So now you're going to have to act like a tyrant and break your own laws. Now, if he breaks his own Obamacare law to take your guns and my guns and everybody else's guns, right? Or I should say the right to have guns, because not everybody has guns. So takes everybody's right to have guns, and if you do have weapons, takes your weapons, right? He's breaking his own law that they passed. So if he's already violating Obamacare, then is this a case of do as I say, not as I do? Because I lead by example. So I'm assuming that he's leading by example. And if that's the case, if he gets to violate Obamacare, well, then I guess we don't have to pay attention to Obamacare either, right? So then that means that this is just going to force, do you see the vicious circle? Because then people are going to go, well, I'm not paying attention to it, screw them. And then it's going to cause more problems. And then they're going to send out their little IRS SWAT teams. And you see how it's a vicious cycle? But I really want to see if he acts like a tyrant and breaks his own law. So best way to make a tyrant act like a tyrant, or to show someone who let me rephrase that. The best way to make someone or to show somebody that the president or whatever in your country, prime minister, whatever, is a tyrant and not some sort of democratic, and I'm doing air quotes, democratic leader, right? Or free-thinking leader. The best way to show them as a tyrant is to make them act like one. So let's see if he violates his own law. And if you don't believe me that it's in there, I'll give you where I'm referencing in Breitbart today. I saw it. Breitbart.com. The title is Obamacare Amendment Forbids Gun and Ammo Registration. So go check it out. Okay. In fact, I'll tell you what the provision is. Hold on. It's Senate Amendment 3276, Section 2716, Part C. I'll read that for you again. Senate Amendment 3276, Section 2716, 16, Part C of insurance care, Obamacare, whatever the frig you want to call it. Go look it up. One more time. Senate Amendment 3276, Section 2716, Part C. So now the ball's in your court there, President Obama. You going to act like a tyrant? I mean, you'd already be violating the Constitution, but are you actually going to violate Obamacare? And if that's the case, if you violate Obamacare, then you're going to be a hypocrite if you send out those IRS agents to go at with guns and their SWAT teams and stuff to enforce your taxes and stuff and your penalties for not having Obamacare. Can't have your cake and eat it too. Checkmate. We'll be right back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I want to play a clip for you really quick, and then I want to get back into a few more things related to the gun control argument. I can't avoid it. I might as well stay focused on it here for the last half hour of tonight's broadcast, right? There's no other way to avoid it. So there's a few things I wanted to bring up and discuss. So I'm going to play this audio really quick. I'm going to let Mr. Ben Swan, who I know Joe Joseph is working on getting on his broadcast, and I'm working on bringing on the broadcast here. I'm going to let Mr. Ben Swan fact-check Piers Morgan for you. I saw this yesterday, and I thought it was very well done. Now, we all know that the other night Alex Jones went on Piers Morgan, and I critiqued it on Monday. You all heard me. I don't need to get into it again. And yesterday, everybody was critiquing it. Well, Ben Swan did a piece about the debate, whatever you want to call it, argument, fight, interview, and he fact-checks what Piers Morgan says, because Piers kept just throwing out numbers, basically. And that's all he kept doing, was throwing out numbers. And it's the same argument he had with Larry Pratt. It was the same, argument he had where he was, when he was yelling and screaming at him. It's the basic same talking points. There is no other argument to that. And then he might modify it to play off emotion and stuff like that. And that's why they have the families of dead people come in, so they can play the emotional angle. But his argument his base argument itself, all that other stuff is window dressing, if you understand, what's going on. And his base argument is garbage. It never changes. It's always the same crap. 35 murders versus, whatever, 11,000 or whatever. Blah, 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 blah. He never mentions that other forms of crime are up. Home invasion, rape. But hey, like the Brady campaign put out that ad, and I'm going to keep harping on this, that banner I saw like a week or two ago. Rape only lasts 30 seconds, but murder lasts a lifetime. No crime is worth taking a life. Wrong, and wrong. I've already expressed on numerous occasions now over the past week about how I feel about rape and what you should do to a rapist, ladies. I don't have to get into it. So I'm gonna let Piers Morgan get fact checked and schooled by Mr. Ben Swan. And Ben does it very eloquently. He doesn't yell, doesn't scream. He just lays the facts down, and I would love to see Ben debate Piers Morgan. I guarantee you Ben would just bury him with facts. He really would. But see, that if that was happening, then that's when Piers pulls the bullying card out. Because if you try to come at him with facts and you can dominate him in a real argument, that's when he pulls the bullying out. That's why he attacked Larry Pratt the way he did. And I broke that down already. So here you go. Here is Piers Morgan getting schooled by Mr. Ben Swan. Too bad it's not like face-to-face, because that would have been way better.
Over the past few weeks, the argument over gun control has raged. And among those demanding stricter gun laws is CNN host Piers Morgan. There's one particular stat that Morgan has been citing for weeks. In our commitment to balanced news, Ben investigates the truth behind it in Reality Check.
Last night on CNN's Piers Morgan Tonight, Morgan interviewed radio host Alex Jones. And to say it was wild, well, that would be an understatement. Here's just a small clip.
Answer this question. How many
Why'd you get fired from the Daily Mirror for putting out fake stories? You're a hatchet man of the New World Order.
Let's try again. How many gun murders were there?
Oh, you're going to ban your fist now?
In Britain last year.
How many chimpanzees can dance on the head of a pin? I already went over those statistics.
Do you know the answer?
No, I don't.
You said hundreds.
It's very low.
You said hundreds.
Yes.
It's actually 35.
Well, the point is you can...
Against 11,000.
As I said, it was wild, and it got even more wild than that. But we wanted to take a look at some of that exchange, because the stat that Piers Morgan was continuing to cite, one that Great Britain, which banned guns about 15 years ago, had only 35 gun-related murders in 2011, compared to the United States, which had 11,000. Let's start there, because that number is not correct. According to FBI crime stats for 2011, there were 12,664 homicides in the U.S. Of those, 8,583 were caused by firearms. But of those, 400 are listed as justifiable homicide by law enforcement, 260 justifiable homicide by private citizens. On the other hand, it is true that percentage-wise, Britain has a lower gun homicide rate. With a population of 62.6 million, Great Britain saw 59 gun-related homicides for 2011. Still not the 35 Piers Morgan keeps citing. But that shouldn't be surprising that the gun homicide rate in a country that bans guns would be lower than in a country where guns are not banned. Where the argument falls apart is when you attempt to claim that fewer guns equals less crime. The U.S. has the highest gun ownership rate in the world, an average of 88 guns per 100 people. That puts it first in the world for gun ownership. Yemen is second with 54.8 guns per 100 people. So that means the U.S. has the highest gun murder rate as well, right? Well, no. Honduras, El Salvador, and Jamaica have higher rates. So do 24 other countries. The U.S., despite being number one in gun ownership, is number 28 in gun homicide, with a rate of 2.97 per 100,000 people. Of course, Piers Morgan isn't calling for the U.S. to be more like El Salvador and Honduras. He's calling for us to be more like Great Britain. So what do the numbers look like there? The U.K. has the second highest overall crime rate in the EU. The U.K. has the fifth highest robbery rate, the fourth highest burglary rate. But more importantly, the EU named Britain as the most violent country in the EU. In the UK, there are 2,034 violent crimes per 100,000 people. That puts it way ahead of even South Africa, with a rate of 1,609 per 100,000. In the United States, we're not even in the top 10. The U.S. has a violent crime rate of 466 crimes per 100,000 residents. So what this means for you is that while people like Morgan insist that the U.S. can learn from Great Britain, well, maybe we can. What we might learn is that violent crime is not the result of a gun or any tool. It is the result of the heart of men and women. And that is Reality Check.
You can find the sources.
Wait a minute. You mean to tell me, Ben, that the gun doesn't wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and plan murders the night before? I just, I honestly think I'm being sarcastic, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm being a little bit facetious, not towards Ben, towards the people that want to take our protection away from us. I honestly think we should push to see if we could get Piers to try to debate Ben Swann. I hear Jones is trying to get a second debate with Piers Morgan. I think he wants to get a moderated debate with him. Whatever, that'd be interesting. But of course, you'd need a moderator. But I would say, if anything, I would like to see Ben Swann talk to Piers Morgan without being interrupted. Of course, see, if he started throwing facts out like that, Piers Morgan wouldn't know what to do, because the only thing he's got is his cue card. And I can guarantee you his producer would be screaming in his ear, "Go to break! We're going to break! Tell them we're going to break!" There's no way. I don't think they'd honestly, if they did, I'd be surprised, and I'm sure they would try to find some way to dominate it, control it, do whatever. I'm still of the belief that when it came to Jones going on Piers Morgan the other night, I'm still of the belief that they've already psychologically profiled Alex, and they know how to get him ramped up. And that's why, as soon as I saw that he was screwed with by the TSA in the morning, and that they had singled him out, and they had said, yeah, they had singled, the people that were with him, and said, yeah, he was singled out and everything. Well, as soon as that came out, okay, it's either A, he's trying to get headlines, right, or B, these people were screwing with him. They'd already, you don't think CNN, as I said, is connected through the intelligence agencies and stuff? Come on. So you don't think someone makes a phone call to whoever? Yeah, Jones is flying out of this airport. TSA, they print out a picture of him, hassle this guy, screw with this guy, whatever. So they do it, and they keep him on edge. Then he gets up there, whatever he's getting screwed with. Remember, he said he was walking down the street, and he was walking to the studio, and people were, hey, Alex, hey, Alex, hey, Alex. And they were trying to screw with him. That's like psychological warfare. So if they were really doing that to him, it almost, to me, it looks like, and this is using even, testimony from him himself. This is what I've put together. It's almost like they've already done a psychological profile on him, which obviously they already have. And they kept him on his toes and screwed with him, knowing exactly how he was going to react when they got him on air, purposely. So, almost like they set it up to go that way. Because, again, the next day, what did they run with? He's crazy, and people like him shouldn't have guns, and conspiracy theorists, and 9/11 truth. And because what was the last thing Piers Morgan brought up? 9/11. Remember, I said he's a pro at what he does. I don't like him. He's a scumbag. But he's good. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Got to know how to play the game. All right, there's two things I want to squeeze in here to the last final segment here. And by the way, I want to plug something really quick that we never plug, any of us. We're all guilty of this and forgetting about this. But Monday through Friday, which actually it's technically, because it's after midnight, it's really Tuesday through Saturday. But Monday through Friday, if you're listening Monday through Friday to the Freedom Link and my broadcast, and then, during the week, whatever you want to call it, that Monday through Friday time there, don't turn off the radio, at least for another hour, because the rebroads, I know you don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with listening to the rebroads, but if you don't want to listen to the rebroads, right, you got other things to do. There still is other radio. There is another host that we always neglect to plug on this network, and that would be the late great Mae Brussel. And if you don't know who she is, tune in and get to know who Mae is. I was proud to be able to introduce Jimmy to her and help bring her to the airwaves once again since the 80s. She died in 1988, so I was glad to be able to bring her back, help get her back on the airwaves for at least for as far as I know, first time in at least, I don't know, I'd say 20 years. Unless somebody else has had her on before. But we were the first network to pick her up, at least in the alternative media community, and start re-airing all of her stuff. And she's been on for a while. We've had her up for about a year. And we neglect to plug her as much as we should. So check it out. The Mae Brussel Archives airs 5 nights a week here on the Orion Talk Radio Network. After my broadcast, after I sign off. And if on the nights that I'm not on Tuesdays and Thursdays, unless I'm doing a special broadcast, after you hear the rebroads in between 11 and midnight, after midnight, from midnight to 1 a.m., stay tuned for Mae Brussel. In fact, tonight when I get off air, you'll hear Mae. And you never know what broadcast will come up. It's 25 years. This woman was one of the original, what was it, 11? Either 11 or 13. She talks about it in her broadcast. I can't remember. I think it was I want to say original 11. Her and other researchers were the first people to be attacked with the term conspiracy theory, because that's really where the term conspiracy theory got its origins from, was around the time of the Kennedy assassination. And Mae and all the people like her, like Penn Jones Jr. and all these other people that investigated it, they're the ones that got hit with the conspiracy theorist label first. So check her out, 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 nights a week here on the Orion Talk Radio Networks, right after I get off. So don't go anywhere. Check her out. She's great. Okay, I got a few minutes left. I want to get into a few things. First, I'm going to have this posted up at federaljack.com, so stay tuned for it. Member of Biden's gun control task force has a son convicted of planning school mass murder. Right now, you can check it out over at townhall.com. That's where I'm going to be posting a blurb and then linking back to anyway. So go to townhall.com, and the title of the article is Member of Biden's gun control task force has a son convicted of planning a school mass murder. Well done. And you're going to tell us about gun control. You can't even control your own son? That's kind of shady in and of itself, but go check the article out because I don't have time to get too much into it. You can find it over on townhall.com. I think it's rather shady that happened, but what are you going to do, right? I mean, it is what it is. We need to look into that further. Okay, here's the last big thing I want to go over tonight because I'm just running out of time. And that article I just brought up is important, so people go check that out. And I'm going to post it up on Federal Jack, and I'm going to look into that a little further and talk about that further on future episodes. But I found this. It's over on Before It's News, and I'm going to play a little bit of audio from 4409. They're an activist group on YouTube. But a guy, and he's going to explain this, but a dude in California, he drove in the HOV lane and got a ticket, and he's fighting the ticket because they say, well, you were by yourself. And he said, but no, he's got his corporation papers sitting on the passenger seat. And remember, the Supreme Court ruled that a corporation is a person. So let's see if he beats the ticket using the Supreme Court ruling. But I'm gonna play a little bit of audio from 4409 because the guy's over there, I think his name's Sheldon, if I remember correctly. He gets into it a little bit and he explains a little bit more about the case because he knows more about it than I do. So I thought you'd all find this interesting. This is the way to screw the system. You find out how the system works, and then you game it using their own rules against them. You stick it right up their rear end.
101. And what this guy did is amazing. It was a guy in California who made a claim. He went for 10 years driving in the HOV lane. And if any of you know, I got actually a website called HOV Lane Fraud. I talk about that scam for a long time, about how the government stole a lane that people have already paid for and then turned it into this privileged lane where it's cops and firemen and all these privileged judges and all these people get to drive down the lane, of course, never get tickets. But you, unless you got a hybrid, unless you're a bureaucrat sanctioned you to be on that road, well, you can't be on there unless you have somebody with you. Anyway, it's just a way to steal the lane, and eventually they turn it into a toll road. But anyway, this guy in California drove in the carpool lane with corporation papers in his passenger side, and he says, hey, you guys say that corporations are people? Well, I have a person here, and we're going to go to court over it. And actually, it was unbelievable what I heard. I thought it was the greatest thing ever, because you know what he did? He took their bogus rules, statutes, and he checkmated the court.
If you get caught, it's a hefty fine, driving in the carpool lane alone. But a Bay Area man says he wasn't really alone, and this is where the story gets legally tricky, and this case could have a national impact. NBC Bay Area's Gene Ellie has the story from Marin County.
Carpooling signs here in Marin County say 2 persons have to be in the car to use the lane legally. Under the law, a corporation is a person. So Jonathan Freeman says his corporation should be considered a person in his car.
I hope he shows, because then the ticket won't be dismissed.
Jonathan Freeman wants his day in court. In October, he intentionally drove by himself in the carpool lane and got a ticket.
It took me 10 years to get a ticket.
But he says he wasn't really alone. He had his corporation papers along for the ride.
Family Foundation. I got corporation papers here for a person. And then he just yelled at me. He said, you need 2 persons in the car. I said, I got them. And my younger brother.
Under the law, a corporation is a person. The carpool lane sign says 2 persons must be in the car. Freeman says he's just taking advantage of corporate power.
I'm just taking their power, I'm wresting their power and using it for my service for driving in the carpool lane.
It's a little bit more of a stretch.
USF law professor Robert Talbot sees the road Freeman is going down, but says the intent of the carpool lane law is to get cars off the road, and Freeman is steering away from the intent of the law.
The court might say, well, it says person, and a corporation is a person, so that'll work for a carpool lane, but I doubt it.
Freeman is hoping to take his case well beyond a Marin County traffic hearing. He wants corporate personhood and the protections corporations have debated in a higher court.
To turn this legal definition on his head.
He's got the ticket he hopes will shift the conversation into high gear.
He says a carpool lane is 2 or more persons per vehicle, he said. The definition of person in California's vehicle code is natural person or corporation. He says, just imagine that courtroom scene will be like. He imagined what they might say. He said, Your Honor, according to the vehicle code definition and legal sources, I did have a person in my car, but the officer so-and-so believes I did not have another person in my car. If you rule in favor, you are saying that corporations are not persons. I hope you do rule in his favor. I hope you do overturn 125 years of settled law. Checkmate. I mean, I love it. My opinion, the cop just magically probably won't show up on this and they'll dismiss it. Well, you know what he could do? He could say that his license is a straw man in a corporation, and he could put his driver's license in the passenger seat and drive that way. I mean, what do you think about this? Tell me what you think. Do you think the guy has a good argument? Do you think he's going to win? Are they going to dismiss it? Are they just going to do like most courts do and just make shit up and just rule against him?
Probably. That's probably what they'll do. Well, they'll probably just dismiss it. Honestly, the cop just probably won't show up and they'll let it go because that's what they've done in the past. When I've had Nathan Frazier on Paranoid in the past, we've talked about law, and when he brings things up and points things out in court, and he's talked about cases like that and how people have gotten off and stuff, and a lot of times if they know someone's going to argue a certain thing, that they'll hold you till the end until everybody's out, and then they'll dismiss your case because they don't want to see anybody else get their case dismissed. So that's probably what will end up happening to this guy. The cop just won't show up. They'll end up dismissing the case later on because they don't want the guy to get up there and have his 2 seconds of airtime in front of everybody else in the court. And they certainly don't want to. I'm sure the judge certainly isn't going to want to rule on it and say, "Oh yeah, you rule against him and rule in the police officer's favor." It'd be cool if he did, but I doubt he will. Remember who judges really work for at the end of the day, anyway. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I tried to jam the second hour there full of info for you and a little bit of my commentary. 2 hours just flies by.
This is Sparta!
That's all right. Pretty soon I'll be going 5 days a week. Not giving out a date yet because I'm not sure, but soon. Anyway, till then, tune in Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't buy into the fear porn. Think with your brain. I love you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm out of here.